madhuvata ritayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhvi irna santoshadhihi madhunatta mutoshasi madhumatparthivagum rajaha madhudyorastu nafpita madhumano vanaspatir madhumagum astu suryaha madhvirgavo bhavantu naha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the winds bring us happiness. May the rivers carry happiness to us. May the herbs give us happiness. May light and day yield us happiness. May the dust of the earth bring us happiness. May the heavens give us happiness. May the sun pour down happiness. May the cows yield us happiness. Om. Peace, peace, peace. This is the story of Satyakama Javala. Gautama, the son of the sage, Haridruman, was a celebrated rishi of the Vedic age. He was known as Haridrumata Gautama. He was well versed in the Vedic lore and had many students in his tapovana, or place for spiritual practice in the forest. A young boy named Satyakama once expressed his innermost desire to his mother Javala to go to Rishi Gautama's place and learn about the highest truth, Brahman. Javala was so touched by her son's desire to learn the highest knowledge that, even though Satyakama was her only son, she readily agreed. There was a problem, though. Mother asked Satyakama, "Please tell me, what is my gotra? What is my lineage?" Satyakama knew Gautama would ask for his lineage. It was necessary condition to be a Brahmin, a priest caste, in order to study the scriptures. Now his mother was in a dilemma. It was such an embarrassing situation for her. She did not know who Satyakama's father was. She had never been married. Satyakama would probably be denied of the right to study the Vedas. After pondering about the consequences, she was resolved to speak the truth. "My child," she said, "I am Javala. Tell the sage that your name is Javala Satyakama." The young boy went to the ashrama of sage Haridrumata Gautama and said, "Revered sir, I desire to live under you as a student. Please accept me as your disciple." Then, as expected, the sage asked, "Dear boy, what gotra, what lineage are you?" The boy replied, "Sir, I do not know what gotra I am. I asked my mother. She said the only thing she knew was that she was Javala and her son Satyakama. So, sir, here I reveal myself to you as Satyakama Javala." On hearing this, the rishi Haridrumata Gautama smiled and said, "No one who is not a Brahmin would speak thus. Dear boy, bring the sacrificial fuel, the firewood. I shall initiate you as a student, for you have not deviated from the truth. Thus was Satyakama Javala accepted as a fit student of the highest truth of Brahman. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ramakrishna Monastery. Today we'll continue talking on this topic I discussed in a previous talk. I called it the importance of values. You can find this talk on Spotify, SoundCloud, or on our YouTube channel. But today I would like to focus on these kind of values, attitudes, or disciplines that are required for any spiritual aspirant. For that knowledge to be revealed in our minds. So I would like to focus on certain values that apply to a spiritual seeker who wants to be deeply committed in his life to pursue the highest knowledge. Are you? It will not be easy. It demands effort. As you can imagine, if you really want to know, which means, in other words, to understand, to have the grace of our own mind, we need to be ready to work with ourselves. Sometimes we oversee these kind of practices, these kind of disciplines or attitudes about ourselves in our spiritual life. We actually look down on them. We don't seem to pay enough attention. These disciplines are very subtle, and they are a must if you want to grow spiritually. Many of these values I'll be discussing today, we take them for granted. We don't really talk about them, and many times we fall a little short in expressing them. Or when observing these shortcomings, we become critical about each other. We see that in each other. In the talk, The Importance of Values, again, we discussed the general concept of value. As human beings that we are, we have self-judgment. We can really differentiate ourselves from animals because of our capacity to judge and not act impulsively in helplessness. Human beings are self-conscious, and what we call free will, or the freedom to choose, comes from our own self-consciousness. Now, choose between what, Swami? Well, we have a value structure. We talked about how choice really makes a person when having a value system, the norms on which to base one's choices. I should do this, I should not do this. I should say the truth. I compromise the truth. The only choice we do not have is in exercising the faculty of choice. We have no choice but to choose. In fact, we have to choose all the time. Did you notice that? It is choice that really makes one a person, and also the quality of the person. Wherever there is choice, there is a possibility of wrong choice and right choice. we talked about value as dharma, defined as whatever and however you want people to behave to you. If you want people to tell you the truth, you have to give the truth to others. If you want people to be good to you, you have to be good to others. That's the simple law of dharma. Dharma is a standard or norm of conduct derived from the way in which I wish others to view or treat me. What I expect or want from others becomes my standard for dharma, right behavior. What I do not want others to do is adharma, wrong behavior. Who wants to be hurt? Anybody? So don't hurt others. Ethical standards are natural and universal. Now, what happens to us? Human beings and spiritual seekers. Human beings have the choice. You can be a good or a better person. For a spiritual person, for somebody who is interested in a spiritual life, in a spiritual growth, who wants to have a healthy mind, my dear friends, there is no choice. You have to follow dharma. Universal values. You cannot compromise these universal values. They cannot, they have to be assimilated by you so that they become your second nature. You don't even think about them. You just live and act. We create our own problems when we stop considering how our decisions affect others. We create our own problems. The conflicts of having values. Did you know that having values is a huge problem? Because when the values are not well assimilated by you, you compromise them. They are half values. You want others to tell you the truth. In your case, it's a white lie. Nobody would know. What happens to you? There is a split in you. You are not complete. There is a sense of guilt in you, and you carry that with you all along. And guess what happens when you want to meditate? Guess what happens when you want to elevate your mind to something higher? You are thinking about these problems. They will always follow you. Only assimilated values are personal values. Once I have guilt, I cannot have a fully comfortable self. There is a split. When I am split, I cannot fully enjoy anything. You feel guilty. There is something bothering you in the background. We talked about this in that talk, the importance of values. I have to bring it up today because I'll be talking about certain attitudes, disciplines that are specific to a spiritual seeker. But what is specific also is that universal values are followed by a spiritual seeker. You don't compromise this. Individual situational values. Individual situational values linked with some highly desired personal end can interfere with my expression of general values. When the general values have not become fully assimilated personal values for me. What happened to Javala, Satyakama's mother? She could have said, just tell the old man, that rishi, that sage, that you're a Brahmin. She could have made up, a Brahmin last name or something. General values can also be compromised when comfort is more valued than a general value. When you have to make a decision, sometimes if the result of that decision is not comfortable to you, you just choose what is more comfortable. It's easier. You don't even need to think about it. Life expression comes from our value structure. The expression of my life is just the expression of my well-assimilated values and the value structure. Only assimilated values are personal values. When I want certain unassimilated values to become part of my value structure, I'm determined to tell the truth now. Or anything. I must exercise deliberation in following them until I am convinced of their value to me. Is it clear? Any value you follow, it needs to make sense and you have to be convinced. It has to become part of you. In fact, it's kind of you. Who you are. It defines you. I must exercise deliberation in following them until I am convinced of their value to me. Their observance will become spontaneous for me. The observance of these values, which I embraced, will become spontaneous. For a person with assimilated ethical values, life becomes very simple, no conflicts. No conflicts in his, her mind. For such a person, the teachings of Vedanta is like meeting the meeting of gas with fire. Knowledge ignites just like this. When it comes to our spiritual life, it is imperative that we follow not just universal values as personal values. We make the universal values personal. We assimilate them. But values in the form of disciplines and observances that will make our minds healthy, enlightened. No deliberation needed. This is what needs to be done, and period. However, human nature gets in between us, and we seem to compromise certain practices in our daily life, certain disciplines without which spiritual understanding will never dawn in our minds. Our moods betray us sometimes, and we take the easy way instead of the right way. I'm assuming all of you here have some kind of a spiritual practice. Sometimes today I'm not going to meditate. Today I'm not going to take an inner bath. It's okay, nobody will notice. We don't seem to understand that the cost of our good habits is indeed in the present, and its benefits in the future. Is it true? The cost of our good habits. If you want to be fit, you have to work out. Who wants to work out? In the beginning it's painful. You have to make up your mind, okay, now I'll do it in 15 minutes. No, a little more. And so it goes. There is effort, there is a cost, here and now. But the future is bright. We need to make efforts today, and the future will take care of itself. We compromise since we prioritize our present and what is more comfortable for us. Indeed, it's more comfortable not to make any kind of effort. What we don't evaluate is that we will have to confront the cost of that bad habit in the future. We keep eating what we are not supposed to. We enjoy the present. We cry in the future. We have to analyze the cost-benefit curve of our present situation. We work hard today, and you secure yourself a bright future. We cannot afford spiritual values, disciplines, to be half values in our lives. Do you understand this? Either you want to change yourself, you want to transform your personality, or just continue living comfortably as you are. We are the only beneficiaries, after all. We don't seem to completely internalize these values so that they become our second nature. No excuses, no compromises. Our spiritual values are supposed to be assimilated. Values like discipline, the sacrifice we make in the present moment, perseverance, integrity, ethics, should be choiceless. I don't even have to make a choice. They should come spontaneously to you. Do you agree? I hope you do. I don't have the time to tell you what happens to Satyakama. I'm sorry. The story continues. But well, eventually, because he was a fit student, he was taught by many teachers, by nature. He came back to his guru and said, "Here I am to learn from you the truth." The guru said, "What are you talking about? You are shining with the light of Brahman. Where did you learn all this?" He said, "Oh, I learned it from nature, from birds, from the goose, or a water bird, etc., etc." We need to make ourselves fit for this. We have the problem, and we have the solution. Nobody can do this for us. Now, in chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, there are a few verses that deal with the way, so that deal what we call values, what we call these values, these observances, disciplines, and attitudes. These values are 20 in number. You can find them in chapter number 13 from verses 7 to 11, and sometimes, depending on the version of the Gita, from verses 8 to 12. I'll be talking only about 9 values from verse number 7 or 8, depending on the version. You ready? I think we'll have to post this on Facebook or something. We have to make a PDF so that you guys remember this. If you have a notebook or something, write them down. There are 20 values for a healthy mind. Meaning we need the right mind. In order to grow spiritually, we need the right type of mind. We need a clear, integrated mind, a healthy mind. And a healthy mind is an enlightened mind. The Gita calls these values jnana. Jnana usually, as you know, means knowledge. But here the word jnana stands for the collection of qualities of the mind in the presence of which, in a relative measure, knowledge of the self can take place, in the substantial absence of which knowledge does not take place. Did you follow? No matter how adequate is the teacher or how authentic the teaching. Jnana, in this case, can be defined as a state of mind that reflects certain universal values and ethical attitudes. Number 1, amanitvam, humility or absence of self-conceit. Humility or absence of self-conceit. You may say, well, I'm humble. There you are. You're not. You don't say that. That's self-conceit. Alambitvam, unpretentiousness or absence of pretense. Ahimsa, you know this very well. Ahimsa, non-injury, non-hurting others. Kshantihi, not shanti, kshantihi, forbearance, acceptance. Arjavam, rectitude or integrity. Acharyupasanam, service to the teacher. Shaucham, inner and outer purity. Styrium, steadfastness, firmness. Atma vinigraha, self-control or mastery over the mind. I know you say, well, mastery over the mind, well, that's too much for me. Wait, relative mastery over the mind. If you're a master of your mind, you are there already. You don't have to do any of this. Remember, these are disciplines. I will say them again in English. Number 1, humility or absence of self-conceit. Number 2, unpretentiousness. Number 3, non-hurting others. Number 4, forbearance, acceptance. Number 5, rectitude or integrity. Number 6, service to the teacher. Number 7, inner and outer purity. Number 8, steadfastness, firmness, determination. And number 9, self-control or mastery over the mind. Each of the terms used by Sri Krishna in the Gita highlights a certain attitude, the value for which must be discovered personally in order that the attitude becomes a natural aspect of the seeker's mind. It's not enough to go and pray in the morning. You have to work with yourself. This is like self-psychoanalysis for you. Just like you go to the shrink, you sit with yourself, with your notebook, and make notes. Amani Tvam. I love it. This is so subtle. I'm sorry. I will make you feel a little uncomfortable. Amani Tvam is the first value listed by Sri Krishna. Humility or absence of self-conceit. Now let us start by splitting the word into two. Let us explain what the Sanskrit word manaha, without the prefix a or a, means. Manaha means self-respect, self-esteem. But extended to the point of conceit and arrogance. Excuse me. It's cold. Self-esteem, but extended to the point of conceit and arrogance. Thus, manaha means an exaggerated opinion about oneself. Manaha does not imply that one is without qualifications, but rather that whatever qualification one has is perceived as huge in one's mind, as worthy of respect and regard from others. Respect me, please. Don't you know who I am? The one who has this manaha is a mani, or a mani. The addition of tvam to mani creates the abstract noun mani tvam, which stands for the absence of the quality, that is, for exaggerated self-respectfulness or self-conceit. The prefix a, in Sanskrit, negates the meaning of the word. So, amanitvam indicates the absence of self-conceit. And here is the value for you. The absence of self-conceit. I say, well, yeah, isn't that obvious? Yes, right. You have to watch yourselves all the time. We don't talk about these things, do we?
Yes.
A simple factual self-respectfulness is not a harmful quality of the mind. We have to have self-respect, of course. In fact, it's a good quality. The problem arises only when self-respectfulness is exaggerated into conceit. When self-respect becomes self-conceit, exaggerated, it does not just undesirably affect my attitude towards myself, but it manifests in my demand upon others to show me the respect that I feel I am due. And that's not good. Ain't good. We clearly have a problem here. The person upon whom I make such demand may not respond. Or the person has his or her manitva, and hence will respond with hostility or demand a greater respect for him. Isn't it something that we experience all the time? Sometimes. The result can be mutual hurt, friction, a troubled mind. What makes me demand respect from others? Do you know? Insecurities? The cause is found in the deep underlying doubt, the doubt in the mind about ourselves, our qualifications. This attitude arises because I am doubtful about my qualification and I demand recognition. It shows that I need some support so that I can feel that I am somebody. This demand comes from an inner sense of emptiness, a lack of readiness to accept myself as I am, because I secretly fear that what I am is not good enough. And this is from the Bhagavad Gita. Isn't it sweet? What is the problem here? Such a person cannot see it quietly in meditation. In his mind, instead of seeing the light, he will see all these faces of the people, he has issues with. There is no time for Vedanta in the mind of a person who is always nursing hurt, one who demands respect from others. Therefore, amanitva is obtained by losing this self-conceit. Absence of self-conceit has become a value for me, and you have to work on it. It will take time to analyze the factors involved. I will see clearly that demanding respect from others is not likely to bring me much comfort or satisfaction, in spite of the reality of my qualifications. If I assume the position of a dispassionate analyst, ready to spot and analyze this conceit every time it pops up, it will soon disappear from the mind. Hey, it's there. I see you. Don't feel guilty. Just work on it. This is part of being human, To be effective, I must analyze this conceit without self-condemnation or regret. Then I will become a simple person. A simple person is one who does not have any complexities. This amanitva, absence of self-conceit, is a quality of the mind that is conducive to the discovery of the self. To discovery of who you truly are. As long as you go on with this in your life, it ain't gonna happen. You have to be free. You have to unload yourself. Adambhitvam, unpretentiousness. Number 2. Or absence of pretense, absence of hypocrisy. Adambhitva is a mental state in which dambha is absent. Dambha, again, is how the word is made without the prefix. Dambha is an attitude that results in an expression quite similar to manitva. It manifests as self-glorification. The difference with the other one is that this one is not true. You made it up. It's a show. Manitva's conceit is an expression based on a real achievement. I am so and so. I have this or that degree or abilities. Whereas the claim of fame caused by this dambha or quality stems from the pretended or fabricated accomplishments and abilities. It's fake. Examples, well, I don't know, when you want to pretend that you are a wealthy person and you dress like one. Simple. There are so many. You can think about them. I do this because I think that pretending will impress others who will respond to me in a way that will make me feel good. I do not accept myself as I am. I want to be different. Now, if you do this, you have to have a good memory, because basically you are lying. This attitude is not conducive to the frame of mind that is receptive of the teachings of Vedanta. If you are committed to falsehood, knowledge is not going to dawn in your mind. The understanding, that spark, ain't going to happen. When this happens, I do not accept myself. Instead, I commit myself to an image that I know is false. I know is false. Will you be able to meditate? Will you be able to focus your mind? Say if you are sitting in front of a teacher, your mind will be busy just pretending. Your mind will be in conflict. With such a mind, you cannot be a real person, and you have to be a real person. A real person is a simple person. A simple person may not be without problems, may get angry, may make mistakes. However, in his simplicity and straightforwardness, he is able to get rid of his anger, learn from his reactions. When I clearly see the futility and absurdity of these two attitudes, self-conceit and pretendness, when you pretend. When I clearly see the futility and absurdity, they will drop. But you have to confront them if you are a sincere spiritual seeker. Then my mind will reflect the absence of pride, the absence of pretense. No scripture or master can help a person with a mind ruled by pride and pretense. Ahimsa. Ahimsa comes from the Sanskrit verb hims, which means to hurt, to injure, to cause harm. Ahimsa, not hurting or not harmfulness, reflects my inherent desire to live free of hurt or pain or threat of any sort. Or threat of any sort. Even thoughts can cause pain. When you happen to hear that somebody was thinking ill about you, that caused you pain. Ahimsa means not causing harm by any means, neither by thoughts, words, and deeds, actions. Kshantihi. The Sanskrit word kshantihi often is translated as forbearance or endurance. Kshanti is a positive attitude, not painful resignation. You shouldn't understand forbearance or endurance as something painful. A better translation is accommodation, acceptance, as well as the capacity to express compassion. This attitude, this capacity, means that I cheerfully, calmly accept that behavior of those situations which I cannot change. I give up the expectation or demand that the other person or a situation should change in order to conform to what would be pleasing to me. I happily accept and accommodate situations and to people. Because all relationships require accommodation. This value must be built upon an understanding of the nature of people and relationships between them. I will never find in one person all the qualities that I like or I dislike. Any given person is going to be a mixture of both, appealing and not appealing. And sometimes we take this for granted. But what do? We complain, we find faults. Oh, see how you are. These qualities, accommodation, forgiveness, mercifulness, are included in the quality of Kshanti. Sometimes we call people saints, a saintly person. The characteristic of a saintly person is that he or she has an immense capacity for compassion. They don't react. So this kind of attitude or value is very much expressed in a saintly person. An open heart. A loving heart. Next, Arjavan. Straightness. This word is similar to the English word rectitude, from the Latin rectus, straight, which means conduct in accordance to one's ethical standards. So Arjava means an alignment of thought, word, and deed. If you are not aligned, you are a fractured person. And a fractured person is not fit for Vedanta. You have to have an integrated personality. Otherwise, I become disintegrated. I am no longer a whole person. I am not together. I will experience guilt and conflicts. To be prepared to listen to these teachings of Vedanta, to understand them. And the teachings are extremely high, right? They're high standards. Is it enough if I told you that you are that Tattvamasi, that you are divine beings? You say, yeah, that sounds great. Manifest it. I love myself, I'm divine, yes, I like that. Show it. Become that. Until and unless we work on these values, these disciplines, that's not going to happen. And again, we take these attitudes and disciplines for granted most of the time. We don't, kind of look at ourselves in the mirror. It's easier to complain and criticize others. Do you agree? Acharya Upasanam. You know, this is service to the teacher. As you know, this is all coming from India, and this is very much in the Hindu culture. It's rooted in the Hindu culture to honor and to serve the teacher. Not all of us are fortunate enough to have an enlightened teacher like the old man here, Sri Ramakrishna. I mean, he is in a subtle body, but we can relate to him or to any teacher like Jesus with our attitude, by having an attitude towards our teacher. And here, I need you to have an open mind. Acharya means teacher, and Upasana means meditation. Acharya Upasana means meditation on the teacher. And what does the teacher represent? The knowledge, his achievements, his realizations. So when you meditate on him, you become that. This value is one of that, is deeply embedded in the Hindu culture. Its intensity and universality within the culture shows the high regard for knowledge and for the teacher who imparts knowledge. As I said, not all of us are fortunate enough to have a teacher in a human body. In fact, when I started my spiritual journey, I was like, what is my teacher? I was in search for the teacher, you know. I found my teacher, a spiritual guidance, and they showed me that the real teacher is within you. But until then, you have to practice this. Acharya Upasanam. This word is also used to indicate a specific aspect of the student-teacher relationship. For example, Gurukula Vasa, living with the teacher for a length of time in a Gurukula, a school, and learning from a teacher. Another meaning is meditation upon the teacher, which is the literal meaning. Meditation upon the teacher means meditation upon the teachings by keeping the acharya, the teacher, who stands for the vision of the teaching. Say Jesus, for example, always in one's heart. Service and surrender is another meaning. Service to the teacher implies a whole frame of mind towards the teacher. Now, what if my teacher is not in a human body? What is that dualistic approach we usually have towards our teacher? I'm your servant, right? And you work for Jesus or for Buddha or whosoever. A frame of mind that is characterized by surrender of the personal ego, subordination of personal likes and dislikes, acceptance of what the divine gives you as what you deserve, not exactly as what you want. I'm sorry if I'm making you feel sleepy. It will take a few more minutes. Bear with me. Thus, this word, Acharya Upasana, means a great personal surrender. It's the personal attitude you have towards your teacher. And your teacher, you could turn that teacher into that principle could be your God, and that's okay. In reality, what really will transform us is our approach, our attitude. We will get the grace of our own minds. Shaucham. Shaucham means cleanliness, internal and external. A little bit of everything we saw until now. When it comes to internal, external, we all understand. It's kind of like universal value, right? Otherwise, people will complain. Hey. But it is true that we have to practice this kind of cleanliness outside also, because as I was told once, the Atman manifests better in clean places, especially in the corners, you know. But the inner cleanliness means to work with all our shortcomings. Jealousy, anger, hatred, fear, selfishness, self-condemnation, guilt, pride, possessiveness, all these demons. No resentments. How do you work? By being alert. Alertness helps to break the conditioning, thereby making the mind receptive to the knowledge that dispels ignorance. A mind kept clean in this manner will be a quiet and alert mind. Such a mind is comfortable with itself and is ready to learn. Again, there are no conflicts. Stairyam. Stairyam means firmness, steadiness, steadfastness, commitment, firm resolution. Just like in any undertaking, if you don't have these, it's not going to happen. You have to be resolute. You have to understand what are your priorities in life. You cannot expect somebody to touch you, with the hand and transform you into it, remove all your limitations all of a sudden. You have to work with them. By becoming aware of them. So indicates constancy or perseverance. Total commitment. Then, at last, and it's already known, Atma Vinigraha, which means mastery over the mind. And here, the mind can be called Atman. Sometimes Atman, we use Atman as Brahman. Atman as consciousness. But here Atman stands for the ego, the mind, ahankara. Vinigraha means restraint or curbing, which, in order to avoid any connotation of coercion or repression, is translated with reference to this value as mastery. What is mastery of the mind? Even in relative terms, the mind is not a definable entity, being only a collection of changing thoughts shaped by my ways of thinking. Do you agree? In general, the ways of thinking are of three types. Impulsive, in which unexamined, indistinctive thoughts dominate. This is a characteristic of the mind. It won't let you think. Boom, you react. The second general way of thinking is mechanical, in which prior conditioning is the dictator. And the third, it deliberates, wherein the evaluating function of the mind, which is called the buddhi, consciously examines the thoughts. This is our intellect. It's included in the hankara, a general term. Consciously examines the thoughts. And this is the one which is going to help us. Accepts or dismisses them in accordance with my value structure. This is good for me, I need to change. This is not good for me, stay away. And there is a fourth way of thinking, which is called spontaneous. This is the one we want, in which my thoughts, without deliberation, conform to the highest universal values. See how everything starts closing the circle. We come back to the beginning. Spontaneous thinking of this kind manifests at the absolute level only in one who has self-knowledge, meaning the one who is already there can only manifest this spontaneity, or live spontaneously without any reflection. Because he manifests values. He is a personification of these values. At a relative level, though, spontaneous thinking reflects the degree to which universal values have become my personal and assimilated values. The degree. We're still working. In essence, a spontaneous thinking is what is meant by mastery over the mind. However, as a preparation for self-knowledge, initially we need to achieve relative mastery by practicing. Mastery over my ways of thinking can be only relative, since complete mastery requires knowledge, full knowledge of the self, which is to turn that into your reality. Meaning, boom, you're God. And you express that. So, this mastery over the mind is nothing but a preparatory step towards the self-knowledge. So what is relative mastery? Well, complete mastery is characterized by spontaneity. If I am impulsive or conditioned, I am not a master. If I am deliberate, I am not a complete master. By being deliberate, I can be a relative master. And that's okay, baby steps. Relative mastery is characterized by being alert and deliberate. I have relative mastery over my ways of thinking when I rationally examine my thoughts. Either consciously I accept or dismiss them. Relative mastery means both submitting all impulses to rational scrutiny and breaking any habit of lapsing into mechanical behavior. Do you see it? Atma vinigraha is a matter of alertness. It's a matter of being and staying alert, aware of what's going on in our minds. What are you thinking? What are you entertaining? Your relationship with sense objects. Do you expect to find what kind of happiness in sense objects? Ordinary happiness? It won't last. It has a beginning and it has an end. If I am alert and conscious of what my mind is doing, I always have the choice over my ways of thinking. With a choice, I can change. I can conform my behavior to my values. With choice, I can learn from my mistakes. With choice, I can hold to commitments in the face of distraction. Choice requires alertness that makes possible relative mastery over my ways of thinking. Human beings have self-judgment. Human beings are self-conscious. Because you are, you know. You are self-conscious. And you know that. You are aware of your existence here and now. Human beings are self-conscious, and what we call free will, or the freedom to choose, comes from our own self-consciousness. But hey, when it comes to these things, it's your choice. Do you want to turn all these values I just mentioned, 9 in number, to be your personal values of your life? Do you want to work with yourself? Otherwise, nothing's going to happen really, truly. You will continue living as you are living, comfortably. You value more your comforts as opposed to your possible transformation. So let's not pretend we are spiritual when in reality we haven't even started. The only choice we do not have is in exercising the faculty of choice. We have no choice but to choose. In fact, we have to choose all the time. It is choice that really makes one a person. We have to make universal values our personal values in life. Don't hurt others. At the same time, if we really want the right type of mind that is required for that spark, the aha, I got this, the light, that knowledge, aham brahmasmi, I am that Brahman, to turn that into a reality. To know this is just a dream. And live and interact as a divine being. It's called self-knowledge. If you want that type of mind to dawn in us, that knowledge to dawn in us, which is the understanding of the teacher's message, Upanishadic teachings, we really need to work with ourselves and make the right choices for us. For a spiritual seeker and Vedantic student, our goal and the means, should be made clear. Do you see it? What is your goal? Yeah, usually say, well, I don't know, the spiritual, all that. I just want to experience peace. If you want to enjoy your inner peace, this is the way. There is no shortcut. Sorry. We should diagnose the problem. The main problem, my dear friends, according to Vedanta and the Upanishads, is wrong identification. Wrong identification. But if we have the problem, the solution is also in us, and we have to work for that. Let's choose to make our character transformation the priority in our lives. Let us commit to make these values our innermost personal values, and thus transform our minds. Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, that outer world is Purna, full of divine consciousness. This inner world is also Purna, full of divine consciousness. From Purna comes Purna. From the fullness of divine consciousness, the world is manifested. Taking Purna from Purna, Purna indeed remains, because divine consciousness is non-dual and infinite. Om, peace, peace, peace. Thank you.